All right, this is the Hoover House. This is a historic place in North Carolina. This house was in relation to this big, huge farm right here, which is now a preservation park for vintage steam engines and tractors and all that. A lot of acreage out here. And we're just going to see if we can do a walkthrough of this Hoover House. A lot of original stuff here. Let's see, is the door locked? The door's unlocked, so we're gonna go in. We're just gonna see what happens. Nobody's hollering at us yet. But this is a little bit of this was a big house back in the day. You lived out in the woods right here and you had a house like this, you were doing something. This is an old bed frame. Still retaining a lot of the old electricals. Really cool. What do they call this, sweet? What do they call this thing here, sweetheart? You're a girl. No, it's some kind of a no, that's yeah. You can open that up, I think. Or no, do they have it? See this? So they kept blankets and different things and all kind of stuff. Now look at that old chair. A lot of houses were built and then they were added on to. This room was probably part of a front porch at one time, and it was added on to. Here is, looks like a living quarters, living room area, you would call it. A lot of times these houses were sectioned off too, just because of what it would take to stay in one of these places. So, you see a wood heater here. That this was a fireplace, but somebody's converted a wood heater, but probably a long time ago. And they've got this little bit of area blocked off they don't want us going into, so we'll stay out of it. But we'll get a little bit of a inside view of what this kitchen would look like. This, by the way, in its day, would have been a modern kitchen. It really would have been. And I think, look at the old CFL bolts. That's wild. Yeah, this is a really old sewing machine right here. It's an old Singer. And this was, every house had one of these. Every house, this was a have-to item because you didn't buy clothes. You would, if you had clothes, which a lot of people did, you had to repair them. If you got a tore on a sleeve or a button that come off, or better yet, if you were really good, you could make a pair of pants and you would have that. And here's another bedroom right here, but just be like a master bedroom. And there's another section here, but we've got a closet. Like I said, I'm not going to tamper with too much, but there's that right there. There's, what this right here was used for, sweetheart? That's a baby kit. Yes. And we've got one of those. Look at my wife's belly. We got one of them on the way. Yes. Yeah, that's an old halogen bulb, so that's kind of original. But look at the bed. Yeah, and then these old houses were notorious for having awesome. This was a little storage area, and this was part of it upstairs to get upstairs to this house. But here's an old book. That's the old Bible. Here is Gracie Dorset. Gracie Dorset, the first child of Myrtle Hoover Dorset and Jeff Dorset, was responsible for pictorially chronicling her family and her friends in her home. Without her, Linbrook Heritage Estate's wonderful collection of old photographs would not. So apparently they saved all this stuff. Yeah. Here's some snuff and a brush. You gonna brush your hair with that, sweet Kaylee? Okay. Kelly likes looking at old houses and stuff, and she said, "We gotta go save this place." I was like, "Okay, we're gonna walk in. I'm gonna go back out here on the front porch." They don't want you going upstairs. That would have been the way to get up there. I don't know what's up there, what condition it is, but
Mom, where you going?
Yeah, Mom, where are you going? What a beautiful front porch. Imagine sitting out here after working the farm all day, and then going in. Look at this. Oh wow. Another little living quarters here, and like I say, you would have went outside right there. A lot of houses were built in small sections, and then they were added onto as if the family grew, the house would grow.
It works.
Yeah, a little bit of piano. This is an organ right here. You pump that right there, and you make organ sounds. And this is indicative of old school families because you didn't have radios, what they kind of did later on. But a lot of times, making your own music was a thing. It's a beautiful old fireplace. I love to see the tongue and groove, the wood slats, the way they did this stuff. But yeah, when houses were built, they would build them as they needed them. So if it was a husband and wife, you built a room and a kitchen, and then you get a daughter or a son, and you'd add on, and so forth and so forth. You could actually kind of chronicleize how the family would grow by looking at the additions on the house. What song are we tuned into over here? Chiming Bell, Sabbath Evening. Yeah, I don't know what the actual date of this book is, but the New Kimball Method. It doesn't have a copyright on it, but this is a really, really, really old book. Look, there's some old writings too. Wow. This is probably some of the old family stuff that was here original to the house. I'm being really careful with it. But I don't see a copyright. 1857, or this building right here, the Kimball building. So this is probably 100 years old. This music book right here. Yeah, this has been updated to a GFCI outlet. Yeah, the bulb might be. Turn. You can just leave it off.
It was on.
Oh, okay. The bulb probably burnt out. Anyways, that's a little bit of this. Let's walk around the back and see what it looks like. Oh, there is. Oh, yeah, there is. Look at the old screen doors. Yeah. There's a little bit more of the history right here. The three sisters, Bertie and Gracie, the two oldest Dorset daughters, moved into the Hoover house with their mother, Myrtle, and father, Jeff, 1930s, to help care for the ailing grandmother. Charity Hoover, Beulah Lee, the youngest of three daughters, was born sometime after the Dorsets moved to the house. All three girls grew up in this house. That's the Dorset family right there, the people who farmed this land. Look at the dresser. Open it from the middle. That's kind of, yeah, it happens. Yep. So, and they did this because it was a way to keep ventilation through here too. Oh wow. I kind of wonder what it looks like on the back side. Careful with the door when you let it shut. Look at the foundation. River rock. Look at that. I don't know when that chimney was added. It doesn't look like it's quite original to the house. But. Is that? Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at this. So there's parts of the house that probably came and went throughout the years. And I imagine it looks like some of this was probably removed due to deterioration. Possibly right here, given the fact that they boarded that off, but they need to get in there and fix that. But that used to be a screen door right there. And then you can see, here's the back porch that you could go outside on in the evenings. And it's aging out. This thing needs a little bit of TLC, but look at the old fuse box. I'm just fascinated with that. And then somebody put a modern circuit breaker in there. Probably went to a well pump for electric well. Zoom in on that fuse box. That. My wife's pregnant, so she has to sit down a lot. Let me get zoom back out here. But you can see just kind of how this house came together over the years. I'm trying to see how this thing did. Let's look at this real close. I believe, and I ought to say that this main section was built first, just looking at how it was done, and there's a good possibility that was added on a little bit later as the family grew and they needed more room for a kitchen. The old washing machine, which that's a modern washing machine because it's got an electric motor. It's not, it doesn't have the old hit and miss engine that would have been on it. Yeah, this part looks like it was added on a little bit later. It's been repaired too. That chimney looks kind of original. And some modern electronics. At some point, there was probably people living in this house up until probably 20 or 30 years ago, maybe. Yeah. Thank you all for watching the Hoover House. Yes.